This is Atlas's 31st session and his 5th lesson in the round pen. Today, this video is really showing him progress through some of the movements we've been working on. So here I'm just going to start by desensitizing. So I want to point out how he looked when I first approached him. He stopped, he backed up, and now he's like, okay, I'm not comfortable. So that started with the very first approach when I first went up to him before I had backed off. He was saying, no, I'm not real comfortable with this, and then it progressed to him leaving. So I should have stopped when he first looked at it and rocked his weight back. And been like, okay, you're uncomfortable, I'm not going to come any further. So that's why I'm posting these. This is an older video. I still have Atlas, we're still working on it, but I should have stopped and recognized that he was worried before moving on. But that's a good example to kind of show that desensitizing. So some horses aren't going to be as worried about things as Atlas is. Obviously, he's a Mustang. But you want to look for those little subtle things oh, I'm not so sure about this. Like the quick head raise, the weight lean. So just kind of things to point out. So now we've really come up really far on the draw or come towards. So I'm not worried about him not coming immediately. He was kind of showing some displacement behaviors. He was eating the grass. He was sniffing the mounting block, but he's really improved a lot on coming toward me and drawing. So he kind of scared himself touching the mounting block. That's totally fine. I'm going to let him kind of show those behaviors, and that's why I pointed out in the beginning when I was desensitizing. I'm learning about that and trying to let him show me those things, but I wanted to point out the times when I don't do it too, so everybody can learn from it. So he really is drawing a lot better. He's coming and walking more than one step. He's not getting stuck, and he's not leaving as much either. So he's really doing a pretty great job with that. He's still a little wary of the lash from my lunge whip that's in my right hand that's light. So you can see him looking and kind of investigating it. It's dragging on the ground. He's pretty worried about that. He's not so sure. But he'll get used to that the more he sees it move and nothing bad happens to him. So just something we're going to work through. Again, like I mentioned in other videos, this whole Mustang training thing was an experiment. It still is an experiment. So I would have used positive reinforcement, but I didn't in these videos. I have with the rest of his training, just not with the round pen stuff that I did with the whips. So I would have clicked and given him a treat when he comes forward. I think that would have sped it up a bit. So he's been worried about that lash, and then he saw it on his left side there and was like, it's going to, come after me. And then he left. But he comes back really nice. So I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to ask him to face up. And then he decides to leave. I'm going to keep asking. And then he faces me. Great. And then I'll just go back to doing what I was doing before, which was asking for that hindquarter yield, which he's halfway giving me, halfway leading or leaving. So I just keep asking. There he faces me, and I'll ask for the hindquarter yield, and he'll give it to me, and then I'll back off. So we'll see if we can get on this side. He's just kind of apprehensive at this point, but I've definitely noticed a big difference between this video and the previous few ones. So that is good. So I'm just having to move his shoulders over here. So I'm trying to mix the things together. Here he was like, oh, I'm afraid, and he wants to leave again. But I'm just trying to get him to do a little bit of steering as he draws and really push his shoulder over. So I just have my black driving whip raised, and I'm just kind of moving it, kind of making some driving pressure. So that'll kind of encourage him to move away and over to his left. There he goes. He took a minute there. And then, so I think he's really freezing there and then just leaving. Both the Mustangs do that, so they're really interesting to show their behavior because they'll be like, I'm not so sure. They'll freeze and then they'll leave. So in a lot of domestic horses, you can see he's standing still, so he's fine. That's not the case. You can really see a lot of domestics do that because they've just been doing it for so long, and the Mustangs don't. So I'm just going to fast forward through some desensitizing here. You've seen a lot of that in the last 4 videos, so we just speed through that, and then we're going to work on some leading next to me. So really, when we're working on the draw, I consider that the beginnings of the leading. So we're kind of doing 2 things. This is the first time I've asked him to lead following me, just like regular leading, so following me at my side. And again, he's a little worried about the whips dragging around on the ground. All I'm doing is kind of asking him to go forward as I did while round penning him. He decides to leave. I'll cut him off, be like, no, let's just come back. And he overreacts there. It's fine. I'm just going to keep gently asking him with my whip and just asking him to go the opposite direction. And he's just overreacting, wants to run away. I'm just going to block him, be like, no, there we go. We're going to go this way. And then I just go back to walking like it's not a big deal. Because I just want him to lead from my side and just follow me, and I just want the whips to act as a go forward cue. That's all it is. As you can see here, like it's just that round penning, but slower and closer. So I just want him to follow me. That's all we're doing. And he's getting a couple steps. It's not bad. He's going forward off the whip cue. There we go. Not bad at all. And then I'll just give him a little break here, kind of make friends again, because the whip scared him. He was really worried about that, wanted to leave a few times. But all I'm doing is walking off and then just raising my whip slightly to just ask him to go forward, just as we've been doing in the round pen. Just when I've been doing the round penning lessons and just asking him to go forward, that's all we're doing. But I'm going to just keep walking so he follows me. There, he's really much better here. Very good. He just was confused. He didn't know what I was asking for. He probably was worried about the whips and also thought I was asking him to round pen. So he was like, oh my goodness, I need to go run around. I'm like, no. So I want to do lots of making friends here. So there, like, I knew he had to get some flies off his chest. So I stopped petting him. He got his flies. He's feeling more comfortable with me being near him. Like, really, in the beginning, he didn't even want to, like, turn his head to get the flies because he really wanted to watch me all the time. So these are big steps for him. So he's still very wary of the whips now on this other side. He's wary of them dragging on the ground. The ropes are scary. I'm just kind of trying to encourage him to go forward here. Keep asking here. He's just confused. It's on the other side now. It's okay. I'm just trying to get his feet unstuck first. It's really out. There we go. And then see if he'll just kind of follow behind me once he's going. Try and ask him again. I'm just putting some energy, some rhythmic pressure behind his drive line with the whips. There we go. And then as soon as he goes forward, I'll drop the whips and walk away. So he's getting that release of pressure there. Just ask him forward. And this is just going to be just like the beginning of teaching lunging. You're just going to have that one little lunge step and then you'll release, and then you'll have another little lunge step and then you'll release, and then you'll have two little lunge steps, and then you kind of build from there. That's exactly what this is. But I really want him to lead with me at liberty before I start halter breaking him, because I want him to know what it is before then. So he's just hanging out, getting some flies. I'm not going to push him and make him do anything and make him lead. I'll give him a minute. Atlas seems to do best when he has a minute to kind of think. There we go. Lots of good steps there. So I'll let him just hang out, go back in there, make some friends, do a bit of desensitizing. I just want to take my time, try and stay nice and relaxed as possible. So we go back in there. That time he wasn't too worried about the whips, so that's pretty good. We're going to work on moving the shoulders. That was good. He did move it really nicely over and then just kind of decided to leave. That's okay. Just trying to catch his hind end here and have him turn and face me. So the mounting block was new, so it was he wanted to go check it out and look at it and stuff like that. So that's okay. So do a bit more desensitizing on this other side. And again, he wasn't really showing the worried signs like he was when I pointed out at the beginning of the video. So I wanted to show you the difference in his behavior there. That was a really nice draw to me. But like he just stood there nice and straight. He let me touch him with the whip. He wasn't flinching or moving away or like really opening his eyes or snorting or arching his neck to get a better look. So that's really good. And I gave him a moment here and he just relaxed. He's licking his lips now, so that's really good. He, especially Atlas, really needs like a minute to just kind of hang out, relax, everything's good. Then I'm not making him do stuff constantly. He can have just a minute to think about things. Horses really need a minute to think, and we kind of forget about that because we go out there with an agenda. So that was some really nice drawing right there. compared to the first couple of videos, is really good. So we're gonna work on something new, sideways away from me, which was actually not bad. He took a couple nice steps there and then just decided to leave, and that's okay. Came right back. So I'm trying to give him a pre-cue by crossing my legs over like that, and he's gotten a pretty good idea, pretty good start for asking him for the first time. And then right there, that was that nice good step under with his hind leg, and I just stop and let him hang out here. So I put sideways away because he's going to learn sideways toward me as well. So that's why I put that out there. So we're just going to do a bit of desensitizing, fast forward through that again. But so I'm doing that little pre-cue with my leg to kind of show him that it's not the same as yielding his shoulders, because it's a very similar like whip posture. Like I'm holding it up. I'm holding it up and horizontal, like the length of his body though. Instead of when I'm doing his shoulders, it's going to be a little bit more like diagonally held and just at his shoulders, but it can be confusing for the horse at first. So I'm trying to just help him differentiate between those things. And here he just decides to leave. This is the gate where he's going to. He also lives directly over where that tree is on the right-hand side. So he's just wanting to go back to some safety, and that's totally fine. You just got to recognize that. So there we're working on just moving his shoulders. Really good. Moving his shoulders the other way. That was really nice. And then let him hang out and think about it. See, kind of go after a fly, do some licking and chewing here. Really good. And I do fast forward through a lot of the licking and chewing and the standing still, but I left it in this video because it's a little bit on the shorter side, and I just wanted to show everyone what that time looks like. This is really nice, little sideways here. His hindquarters lack a little bit. There we go. So I just kind of allowed him to move his front end and then just kind of angled my whip more toward his hind end and then put a bit more energy there till he gave me what I wanted. So I'm taking that step, I'm holding my whip horizontally, and then just putting some energy on it. There we go. That was really nice. And then I'll just do a bit of desensitizing. And then do the other way. I'm trying to do both sides. Very good. Yeah, very nice. He really catches on really fast. He's a quick learner. The biggest thing with Atlas is just his fears. Whips, ropes are his fears, so we got to work on that, but he really is a very fast learner. Ask again. He wants to leave a bit more, so I'm blocking here with my whip in my right hand. My driving whip stays straight and horizontal to kind of block that forward movement, so that's important. Good. Oh, that was decent. Nice 2 crossover steps there. So we're going to work on a bit more desensitizing here because I want the whips to mean move, but also not only move. So you just don't want them to just think that that's the only thing that you could do with the whips. So I'm desensitizing the whip on his head a little bit. He's not too sure about the lash. He's backing up here. So again, that was one of the examples at the beginning. He's worried, he's moving away, like he's leaning his neck away. He's just like, I'm not super sure about having that whiplash on my neck. He does relax here afterward, but I probably should have gone a bit slower, use the driving whip with the shorter lash. But this is just an example, a good learning example. So that's good. But he's just kind of like looking away. It's a bit too much pressure for him right now. And then I'm going to slow it back down here. Because the driving whip has a much shorter lash, so I should have started with that. So I just kind of want him to get used to that movement, though, on his face, and he's just really worried about that movement. So there, he's took that step back. He's not so sure. He's got his head raised. He's pulling his head away, and then he actually leaves. So that's a really good sequence to show you guys. That all the steps, all the things that he was showing me, he escalated. He was like, I'm not okay, and then he completely leaves in trot. So he was worried the lash was touching his head and his ears, and then it really shows the escalation of the behavior. And there it goes again, and now it's faster again. He moves his head, he bends his neck, and then he moves his body away. So those are 3 good examples of him really escalating his body language and saying, I'm not comfortable, and then he leaves. So if we can stop at the first, I'm not comfortable, and stop, back off, okay, give him a second, reapproach, I think that's going to help a lot of people, because I didn't know about all of that until after I had started doing this with Atlas. Is this going to work the way I'm doing it? Yes. Atlas is fine with the whips. But I just want to do the best thing for the horse. And I just feel like letting them kind of have more of a choice with it instead of just saying stand here and take it is definitely better for the horse. And it's going to be better for us in the long run too, because then the horse can communicate with us. They're going to be less likely to shut down. So here he's still showing like, I'm not so loving that, because he'll move his head from either side to try to avoid it. Because sometimes I get stuck in the, just keep desensitizing, and like he has to stand here and we also think this is a good fun thing, like horses love to be desensitized and just kind of stand there and nap, and I'm sure some of them do, but especially not the Mustangs. This is also a learning thing for them. Desensitizing is a training thing for them. They need to learn to accept certain stimulus, and for the Mustangs, it's everything is a stimulus. So it's not a big reward for certain horses, and I think that's really important. So we're going to reapproach here and just kind of slow down a little bit, start on his nose, bring the lash up slower to his head, and then I'm going to go back in there, make a bit of friends. For this, like he ended on a good note for the lash. He wasn't running off. He was all right with it. We'll work on it a little bit more. I don't want to drill things and then make it into a fight. I want to end on a good note where we've gotten a little bit better than we were. He's not leaving. He's not running around. So we're a little bit better than we were. But then the next thing I wanted to work on was just getting to touch his front legs. So I'm going to start at his head and then just kind of work my way back, just touching and petting on him. And then we'll work our way down his front leg. So he's already been desensitized to the touch of the whips and the lashes on the whips. And now I'm going to work on my hand touching him. So this is the same kind of desensitizing, like I was rubbing on his legs, then I step back, I give him a minute, he shakes his head, he licks his lips, he relaxes a bit, and then I go back, put him on the face, I'm going to work my way down his neck, and then I'll work my way down his shoulder, and then to his leg, and I'll touch his leg for a second, and then I'll retreat. So it's that approach and retreat, and just making sure he's okay with that, and there we go, and I retreat and let him hang out. And then he just gently needed to get a fly. So that was really cool because he's always been a little bit more worried. He didn't want to move his head and go after flies because he wanted to really keep an eye on me. So he kind of turned, I backed up, let him have space to move his head, and then he'd go ahead and get his fly. And I think that was really helping him out. Like I feel like he's bonding a bit more. He's trusting me a bit more. So I like all of those things. We're going to go ahead and do it on the other side, and I just move him here so we can see a bit better angle with the camera. And I'll do this on both front legs. I'll start with the front legs. Obviously, they're a bit safer than the back legs. With Castor, my other Mustang, I do start this in protective contact. He's on the other side of a fence. So with Atlas, Atlas is a lot more of a flighty horse. Obviously, you see him leave multiple times during the video, which is fine. I wish he would leave less, but he's just going to leave when I touch his leg and he's not super worried. But if you felt any worry or you're concerned about it, just go ahead and work on this in protective contact. Or I could use the mounting block too, which I do in later videos. But again, I start on his face, I work my way down his neck to his shoulder and then to his leg. And then I'll just pet there for a minute, and I'll retreat, and then I'll start over again. So we're just kind of ending the session on a good note, hanging out, bonding a bit. You can see some hair flying off of him. This is from springtime, so he's still shedding out a bit, and he gets really hairy still. Not really great for North Carolina weather, but so there I kind of was trying to get some stuff out of his face, and he pulled his head away, so I just kind of waited for him. There he comes back. I'm just trying to be like, okay, it's okay. Like, he doesn't have to obey my every request. I'm going to give him a moment and then go back to petting him. It's not a big deal. I really want this two-way communication. I don't want me just saying, do this, do this, do this. I want him to say, oh, I'm not sure. And I'll be like, okay, how about this? And then we kind of go on with things. So I'll work my way down his shoulder here toward his leg. And this is really going to be my first step into touching down his legs and then getting those front feet picked up. because they did get their feet done at the BLM, but I want to start working on that so I can get their feet lifted and work on getting them ready to be trimmed and see the farrier. So I kind of touched on his upper leg. I'll back up, give him a minute, and then I'll work my way down. And as I go here, like I'm touching just a little bit on his leg, and then I'll kind of move back up to his chest just for a second, which I'm not in a great spot, but I'm just doing little pieces and then giving him a minute to think about it. He was doing really great with that.